Check it out.
Hello?
Hey, Bree, how you doing?
Hey, good, pretty good. How are you, Mario?
I'm doing all right. Hey, I was psyched to see you and Cameron climbing last week. How did your session go?
It was pretty good. Haven't been on ropes in a while. I feel like I just need to start training a little bit more again. What was that hangboard you mentioned to us?
It was a flashboard. I think it's the best one because you can use it indoors, you can use it outdoors. It doesn't really matter where you use it. You can hang it on stuff. You don't have to mount it to your wall, so it's pretty dope.
Oh, that's great because I feel like I can't put holes anywhere in my house, but
yeah,
that's awesome. Where can I get it?
You can go to Tension's website, and then whenever you do, just drop in the promo code Tension SAS20. You'll get 20% off. You'll support the podcast, and yeah, but then they'll get it to you on the quickness.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Are you guys climbing again this weekend?
Yeah, I think we'll hit up maybe the new rope gym down in the Design District.
Oh, the new movement is finally open. Nice.
Finally, after our long wait.
I know. That's a long wait, but I'm excited. Well, I'm looking forward to climbing with both of you guys, and I'll see you guys this weekend.
Yeah, I'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye. Friends and enemies, lovers and haters, welcome to Sends and Suffers podcast. I am your host, Mario Stanley. If you haven't already, please follow, like, and subscribe to Sends and Suffers podcast. Every bit counts, and we would love to hear from you. So take a moment to leave a comment. These go a long way and help others know what they're getting into and how good this show is. If this is one of your favorite podcasts, consider becoming a Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you are investing in Sends and Suffers podcast, and it's like buying your boy a taco, hanging out, and getting to know the good that is coming your way. Monthly recaps, early show releases, and all the other cool things that we do. Thank you so much for listening to Sends and Suffers podcasts. This episode is part 2 of a conversation with my boy Daniel from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, I know we left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but don't worry, it's worth it. This conversation gets deep. It gets real, but most importantly, this conversation is just beautiful between two gentlemen talking. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode with Daniel, and I don't know what else to say. I always feel like I have something else I want to say, but you know something? I'm just going to be me. I'm out. Enjoy the show.
Like, this is the simplest thing I could say. Like, I think climbing allows for you to like be in the most beautiful places on earth. Like, wait, I want to say this again.
Yeah, take your time, man.
Wait, I've said this before and now it's like not flowing as well. Shoot, dude. Climbing puts you get to see the most beautiful places in the world from the best spots. Like, and you get to use your whole humanity to kind of interact with nature. Like, I mean, like if you're on a big route, dude, and you're 1,000 feet off the ground, like there's going to be at least moments where you're scared, like, and where you have to like try like hard. And it, like, especially if you're pushing grades on like big routes, like that is a very like emotionally, physically, psychologically, sometimes relationally taxing experience. And then you get to do that in like the most beautiful places in the world. And I think that's like freaking amazing, dude. Like,
I would agree.
Yeah. So you get to like interact intimately, like with the most beautiful places in the world. And like, what could be cooler than that? Like, you notice intricacies like that you would never notice if you weren't climbing, like the shape of rock, like the texture of it, how it feels. Yeah. So, I mean, I crave things like that. You get to push yourself and like, I don't know. There's nothing more long-term motivating to me than like a project, I guess. Yeah.
How do you feel when the project is done?
Dude, okay, I'm working on this. So I'm like doing therapy right now, like, and trying to like shift some of the things that I do. Sometimes I'm just like, all right, I did it. It's time to move on. And like, all right, what's the next thing I can accomplish? And I'm kind of trying to like move off of the hamster wheel a little bit of performance, because I'm also 31 now and my body kind of like slowed down a little bit this year. So like, I think often in the moment, like on the Sin Go, sometimes it like flows super easy and sometimes it's like a brutal fight.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think whenever you're like pushing at the edge of yourself, like there's an inherent presence like with the moment that comes from that, which is like the most like trendy thing ever to say, I guess. But
no,
like,
but it's true.
It's real, dude. Like being grounded in a world that it's really hard to be grounded in, like when there's so many distractions around, and just being really focused on your
rock
body.
climbing grounds you very quickly.
Dude.
Like reality, mortality, and what you were doing come into real grips real fast.
Dude. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I haven't been able to climb as hard in like the last like 6 months, like just due to some like nagging injuries. But like that feeling of like just being like on the edge of what you know you can do is like one of the coolest, like, or maybe that you don't even know that you can do it. Like, but you're just on the edge of like what's possible for you. Like, it's like this kind of like unifying thing, like that everybody can get to experience no matter how hard you climb too. Like there's something really good about that, man. Like, no, climbing is like this like unifying and equalizing sport, I think, in a lot of ways.
No, I definitely pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
I think, when the project is done, do you tend to want the next thing? Or are you trying to move into like allowing yourself to like bathe in that moment? You know, like, are you allowing yourself to just kind of swim around in the sauce of the send? Or are you feeling bad that you want to move on to the next project? Because it's just interesting, because listening to your answer, like I still don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I still don't know. Well, you did in a way, but like, I think I hear your answer, but I'm just curious. It's like, so I said this to a friend of mine recently, and I've said that actually to a bunch of people recently. But is what you are doing trying to redefine your relationship with climbing?
Yeah, very much so. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
What was the catalyst? Was the injuries the catalyst? But what was the catalyst that made you realize that, like, I don't have a bad relationship with climbing, but I'm realizing I don't have the relationship that I think I have with climbing,
and that I want to have maybe too.
And now I want to have this other relationship, or I need to discover what this other relationship looks like. What was that moment that made you realize that?
Dude, it was this spring, and I kind of been like, it's been there for a while, like this kind of like nudge and this feeling of like burnout a little bit. It's probably been going like for like the last like 2 years, but it kind of like caught up to me a little bit this spring. And yeah, I kind of got done with the spring season, and I didn't knock out any of the goals that I wanted to, because I think this was like right around this time my like tendonitis like flared up in my elbows and my knees. So I was like kind of psychologically burnout and physically all happening at the same time. Because I think I was kind of in this space of like, okay, like keep pushing, like next hardest route that I can do, like next grade, like overtraining. And like, so I think I would get done with routes and kind of think there's definitely like, it's complicated. Like there's like tons of joy at the same time, but then also soon after would be like, okay, time to dial in. Like maybe like before I even leave the crag that day, okay, like what's next? Like what's the next goal? Like,
do you feel bad that you're like, okay, what's next? Like what's the next goal? Or is it more like, okay, cool.
It's felt like more of a burden, I guess, at that point too. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to shift, like in my own mindset, I guess, is like, okay, I have to be like there's this like inner drive within me that's like, okay, I just have to be climbing harder and harder and harder. And like, I think that's not necessarily bad, but I think it's like what it does to you psychologically that would like say whether or not it was healthy and good for the individual. So it's going to look like different for different people, I guess. But for me, it felt like tiring.
I can see
a little bit. Yeah. So like,
that.
I think I came to the point where I was like, man, like the best moments that I've had outside have been the ones that I like got to project with like people that I love, like alongside them. Like I got to do this route in the Wichitas that was like my first 512 in the Wichitas called Rat Bolters from Hell.
So good.
It's so good, dude. And
it's
like
so good.
My friend Drew and I were both projecting that one day, and like it was this like freezing day, and like it was like a little bit brutal condition wise, but we like sent it back to back. And it just like felt so freaking good. And then we both like jugged up the line to like shoot photos of each other like on the route too. Like, and it was just like this moment where like me and my friend got to like share this like really cool experience together. And I was like, even that day I was still like, okay, I want to like, what's the next hardest route I can do? But like, I remember that day, like specifically sticking out at the same time and being like, oh, like I got to do this with like Drew, like my wife was there and she was like mega psyched, and she was also projecting on the route that day too. And like, it was just this community thing, and it was like relationship building and like lots of smiles and lots of psych, like at the same time. And then, so like, I'm kind of like looking back through like the memory book of like, okay, like what did my body like react the most to, like enjoy? And like, that's what I want to reproduce in climbing.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, so I'm like, I think I've like been a little bit at war, like between like my ego motivations maybe, and then like what my body wants to do. And I think my body was kind of like telling me that this year.
Yeah. You're
like
trying to
shift
cash
around
checks.
a little bit, man. Yeah. Like,
trying to cash checks that your body doesn't want to cash.
Yeah, dude.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think you go through waves of that too. I like how I definitely want to say, like, just like from a coaching perspective, like don't lose the stoke just because don't lose the stoke because the sends aren't happening. And I would tell you, I'd encourage you, the moment you send a project, bathe in it for it, run with it, lavish in it, dude, just get lost in the sauce. But I think you definitely should immediately right after that, look for other projects. I think you should look for other things, but I don't think it should be like, okay, it's the next harder thing. Like, okay, like one of the things I always teach the kids is, and any adult or anybody I'm training, I never tell them, they always ask me what the grades are or what does the tag means. And I never tell them.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude.
Read the route. And I'm like, does it look cool? And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's just climb it.
Uh-huh.
And I think sometimes, I encourage people to like, or jump outside of your discipline. Like maybe another project could be something hiking or mountaineering or something different. Like I think sometimes, especially if you're trying to like work around injury, it's very, 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 very challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes to kind of keep beating on your body.
Yeah, dude.
So you are also a well-established and a very, very incredible photographer. And you recently made a documentary?
Yeah, dude, I did. So I live in Tulsa. Tulsa's like a pretty wild city.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like, you wouldn't know that if you just drove through, but there's like a ton of history in Tulsa that once you start to like look into it, it's like a pretty wild place, man. Yeah. Yeah. So for those that don't know, because this like wasn't really talked about until recently, there's this event called the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Yep.
In 1921, where there was kind of this inciting incident where a black man was accused of, I don't know, somehow like assaulting the honor of a white woman in an elevator. And that like sparked this like massive thing where like lots of city blocks of like the most prosperous black community in the country was destroyed and burned down, which is like this like yeah, it's kind of hard not to like talk about that event like without crying. Like a huge tragedy. Yeah.
It was dark.
And it still has like a dramatic effect on my city today because like it was this thing that happened and then nobody would talk about it. Cause like at that point, like Tulsa was like a bustling like city, but it still wasn't huge. Like, so like, I think the black community didn't want to talk about it out of fear and the white community in Tulsa didn't want to talk about it out of shame. Which like is those two themes we could dive into and have long conversations about.
I mean, we were talking about it on the car ride up.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. It's a really important thing, dude.
Yeah.
So there's, because it wasn't talked about, it wasn't really recorded, that much in written history. So there's a lot of oral history passed down about the race massacre. But out of like a want to know more about it, my city, the city of Tulsa, started a investigation into locating, the mass graves that were left from that event. Which nobody really.
I didn't know there were mass graves.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the documentary that we made is about that investigation. It's called. I just blanked on the name of this documentary that I spent the last year making. Oaklawn. Shoot, dude. I haven't spent more time on anything else in the last year than that. So yeah, the documentary is called Oaklawn, which is the name of the cemetery that the first like archaeological digs were done in. That was like one of the proposed sites of mass graves. So there's an oral history around these mass graves, but they're not really recorded anywhere. There's not like any hard data about like what was going on with them.
Can people watch your documentary?
Dude, we're working on distribution right now. Maybe that's something we can add to show notes or something later once we get something dialed on it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I really do. If anybody wants to screen it, they should talk to me.
Well, real quick, can we just like briefly touch on like what does someone need to know? Like what is the ABC? Like if I want to screen this thing tomorrow in my climbing gym or in my local community, what is ABC I need to know to make it happen?
You need to have a space that you have permission to use, and then like the equipment to screen a film. So like a projector or a big TV or something and seating for people to see it in, and then talk to me and we can make it happen.
Okay. Is there permitting things like costs?
If you talk to me, we will make sure it gets screened.
Okay. Perfect.
Because so I guess the unfortunate part and why we made this documentary is not just because like we're trying to find this data, but like our city was not super forthright in the way that it did this investigation. And it's rather than becoming this thing that was like healing for our community to kind of like see what actually happened here and we can like grieve and mourn what happened as a community.
Turned
it kind of
more
became
like investigation.
And it became this thing that we would talk about in like press events as like we want it to be like transparent and everybody to know, and we want input from the community to like we're not really going to do due diligence around this, and we actually don't want input from the community, and we are not really going to be super serious about sharing the results of our findings. Or the city was kind of like that. So there was a public oversight committee that was made up of like a lot of different people, but many people who were descendants of the race massacre.
Victims or perpetrators?
Victims. And who knows if some people were perpetrators or not. Like some of their names are known, but most of them aren't, because it was never really recorded anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
That public oversight committee made a lot of recommendations that were not listened to. And this is an ongoing investigation in our city too.
Oh, it's still going.
Yeah. And it's kind of become like more and more behind closed doors and more disheartening and kind of like re-traumatizing for our community. So we made a documentary that was telling the story of what happened from members of the Public Oversight Committee, most of whom we interviewed, there was multiple members of the oversight committee. Most of them were also like they're activists in their community, of course, and descendants of the massacre as well. So it's a wild story. And we really want kind of more national eyes to be on what's going on. So one of the reasons that the investigation happened was because the centennial of that event was last summer, of course. Oh, wow. So like while all of like the news cameras were kind of like focused on Tulsa around the centennial of the race massacre, those in charge of like making things happen did a pretty good job of like controlling the image of what was going on. And then as soon as those cameras weren't focused on Tulsa after the centennial, a lot of wild stuff started to happen. And yeah, I really care about our city and the unity of our city. And unfortunately that like, has created like a deeper rift in a city that was already like had a history of mistrust along racial lines. And yeah, that really stinks. So I really want like the word to get out about this story specifically and for people to like know what's going on in Tulsa, because if like Tulsa can do a good job, like as a city and like kind of like, I don't know, create a model for what racial reconciliation looks like, I think that model can be reproduced in any other city in the US. And like, it needs to be reproduced. Like,
yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to, after we're done with this weekend, I'd definitely love to talk to you about figuring out how to show it in Dallas. I have a few places.
Dude, let's talk for sure.
I have a few places we can definitely do
okay,
that.
cool.
I know.
Yeah.
And as long as you're down, then.
Yeah, we want to make it happen.
Yeah. It's a done deal. We'll
Sweet.
make it happen.
Okay.
So yeah, man, that's wild. So, so did your photography lead to shooting you a documentary? Is this a natural progression?
Dude, I kind of like stumbled into photography by accident. Like the first backpacking trip I went on to like go do some 14ers, I had like a little Nikon point and shoot camera with me. And I guess like pointed it at the right stuff without like really meaning to, and shot some like really cool photos that I came back from the trip. And I was like, what the heck? Like, this is really beautiful. Like, I can't believe like I get to like kind of hold these moments like that I saw and like now have them forever. So I guess I'm like this is like going to sound like super corny, but like I'm really motivated by like visual beauty. And I think landscapes, are like, just extraordinarily beautiful things. That's why one of the reasons I climb. Like,
that makes sense.
And then, I kind of like started like looking at those photos. Like when I got back from that trip and was like, I think I'm going to start taking more and more photos now. And I kind of just like built the habit of it. Like if you look at my early Instagram photos, dude, like I did not know what I was doing at all. Oversaturation to the max.
Oh, dude, I think that was early Instagram. Early Instagram was no different than early MySpace or Facebook.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But dude, I'm also kind of thankful that I had that like low pressure space to just like express what I wanted to, like, and like make it what it was, and like learn and like refine the art without like a fear of failure, because like whatever I thought I was doing, I thought it was beautiful, and that's pretty cool. And that motivated me to like keep creating. And then like I learned a lot and grew as a photographer. Like, so I was always motivated to travel, and like, especially once I like really like took ownership of climbing, like was even more motivated to go do it. And once I learned how to play skier, like that was like a huge like level of freedom for me that like, it's just such a cool thing, man. Track climbing is just like the best, I guess. Like it just opens up so many opportunities in the world.
I would agree. Not everybody does, but I'm a big fan of like, doesn't matter what it is. Like I just show up to climb the rock. If it's a boulder, great. If it's track climbing, great. Sport climbing, great. Aid climbing, great. I mean, if we're just whatever it is, I'm here to climb rocks. That's generally what I always tell people. I'm like, that's all I showed up for.
Yeah.
There's no rocks to be climbed, then I'm going to be hanging out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So I guess I just like always had my camera with me. And then like the more I started climbing, like my camera just always stayed like with me alongside me. And then I started hanging from ropes to shoot photos and growing as a photographer too. And then, yeah, I kind of transitioned to film out of photography because I mean, making money as a filmmaker is a lot easier than making money as a photographer, like in this like post Instagram world that we're in and post like digital camera world too. And then filmmaking like brings a lot of opportunity to tell more complex stories that are like very, I don't know, it captures more of the human experience. One frame, like in a photo, like gives you an insight into something like beautiful, but there's a lot of interpretation that's done on the part of the person. Like you can't really see what's going on like behind the scenes there. Like you see this beautiful image and there's inherent value, I think, in that. And I think there's something special about like leaving it up to the observer to,
it's funny.
Imagine.
When you say that, you remind me of a photo, and I can't remember which president it is, but there's a famous photo of a president leaning over the presidential desk in the Oval Office. And it's like his hands are out on the side and it's dark and it's gloom and it looks down and like his head's down. And he's like, it just looks so ominous. But the actual paper is him just reading the paper. The actual photo is him just reading the paper. Yeah. But like the way it looks and it's like that photo has been used as like the weight that is on presidential shoulders. Cause it's very ominous.
It tells the story. Yeah.
It's very ominous. But when you hear the story, like the photographer was just like, oh, this is a really cool moment.
Just took this photo.
Yeah. Took this photo.
The light hit just right and I snapped the shot. Yeah.
And next thing you know, like reading the paper turned into a rally cry. You know?
Yeah.
And but I definitely agree with that. It's funny. I've been wondering this for a while. Maybe it's just my social media, but I feel like there's been like this slight rise in interest in film cameras again.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'm like really hoping to see this, like, I'm really hoping to see like the rebirth of like dark rooms and like printing large format. Like,
dude, large format photography is really cool. Like there's so many freaking rad things that you could do with it.
Dude, there's this guy that this dude that I follow. I don't really know. I don't know if he just takes stuff, but they did this really cool thing where they took some film and then they put like Kool-Aid in it. Like they put water, dyed it, like they threw all this stuff and it leaked into the film. And then when they took photos, the photos all had this like rainbow color effect on the back of it. And I was like, that's cool. Yeah.
There's all sorts of like wild stuff that you could do that like is somewhat like unpredictable. Like digital cameras nowadays, like, dude, you don't have to be that good of a photographer to like get a good photo. Like,
yeah, you see, you shoot, you go. But like with film,
you have to be good at what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think it allows like, okay, so call me crazy, but I think shooting with a film camera is like having a birthday every time you go to develop. Because you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And like some of this is trash. And
you're going to like open some presents and get like disappointed.
Oh, it's like half of them are like, you know, when a kid gets the first camera, they're all nosebleed shots.
Yeah, dude.
And
And
but like some of it is great. And I was like thinking about like those old E9 or E whatever, like the little roll films, those long rectangular ones.
Yeah.
My parents used to give us those cameras and I remember they gave us bags of film and they developed all of those things. I don't know where all those is, but they gave us bags of film. And my dad was like, you guys would just snap photos all summer. Yeah. You would snap so many photos, you would forget what you take.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's something definitely like, it's really silly. And, but I definitely know whenever I have kids, I want to do this. Like I want to give them a disposable camera. And I'm like, you have to take, you know, and I don't think they'll actually listen to me. They're going to burn them all in like 5 seconds. But I'm like, you get one disposable camera a week. And like when we go on a family cruise and your job is to take some photos that you think you're going to be proud of. Yeah. And then when we get back every week, I want to take them to develop that photo or we develop ourselves in a dark room. Cause you can turn a bathroom into a dark room.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it would be cool. Cause then they're going to be like, oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, your brain is like a Polaroid. Like you see someone and that image of that person doesn't change in your mind until you see them again. And so I think it's good to challenge your memories. And I think, with Instagram and social media, it's just so easy to be like, okay, boom, this. But I like the concept of like, you have to wait for the happy birthday song to be over. You have to wait for it in order to open your presents. Yeah. And then you get to
there has to be like a level of like anticipation and tension and like, oh dude, who knows what's going to come out now, man?
It's the same thing like getting on a boulder you don't know.
Yeah. Same thing. Dude.
Same thing.
Dude, there's nothing better than on-siding or flashing.
Yeah.
Like that's like the best experience.
Or wouldn't the same be like you really hope you got this photo right and then it develops and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
nailed it.
I wanted it to be. And then dude, like you take those moments and you learn too when it doesn't work out right.
Yeah. When they're trash.
Yeah. It's like, that thing that I really wanted to do that was cool, I didn't freaking do that. Yup. Yeah, dude, nothing good. So I'm like saying this and I'm like preaching to myself at the same time. Like nothing good happens without failing. Like I really don't think that you're going to produce like anything amazing without failing a lot in the process.
Breeds success.
Yeah.
Failure breeds success. Yeah. And anyone who is like, I have this saying that I say, and so many people tell me this saying is stupid, but I've had a lot of people tell me this saying is stupid, what I'm about to say, but I'm a firm believer. I'd rather be wrong than right any day of the week. Because if I'm willing to be wrong, I'm willing to learn. And I know people all the time, it's like, I'd rather be right all the time. I'm like,
no, dude. I used to say that for sure.
Yeah. And I like so many people I know, they're like, oh no, I would rather be right to be right. I'm like, so you are more concerned about how you look. Mm-hmm. You are more concerned about how you're perceived. Mm-hmm. You're more concerned that your ego, yourself needs to be right. And I'm not saying I always want to be wrong. I'm not trying to walk through this world. For sure. I'm not trying to walk through this world with folly. But what I am trying to walk through this world is like, I know nothing.
Humility.
Yeah.
And like real humility. Like
there is so much that I know that I don't know.
Yeah, dude.
And I think I'm pretty good at reading people and perceptions of people's personality, but there's just a lot in the world that I don't know. Mm-hmm. And
oh man, dude. And the more I love that, like, I think it's like described by the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I think describes the negative of it. But like the positive, it's like, if you don't know that much about something, you'll like talk a lot, like you like know what's going on and like everything is like going well. But then like the more you like really learn about something, the more you realize like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I don't know.
I think that's like science in the universe. Yeah, the more we think we discover it, the more we realize we have no idea.
Any intellectual pursuit is that way. Like history, like psychology, it's not like I'm a professional in any of those things, but I'm interested. But like the more that you learn, the more you're like, man, there's like not like dialed in answers to this. No. And there's a lot more complexity than I expected there to be. Yeah. And filmmaking is very much that way. Like too.
Oh yeah. Especially when you start trying to get more creative in like the creative process of it. Like I'm like, by no means am I doing this now, but it's on my bucket list of like, I'm going to shoot myself in the face when I wanting to say this, but like my goal is to I want to become decent at Adobe After Effects.
Yeah.
And every time I step into that program, I want to like murder myself.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, so it's not that hard, but I don't know what it is. It's conceptually hard for me to wrap my brain around that program.
It is for me too, man. I just want to be able to like pull templates and like change them slightly in After Effects. Like that's all I want to be able to do.
I want to be able to create.
Like, that's enough of a challenge for me, man.
Yeah, no, I want to be able to create it from scratch and like get the thing to do exactly what I want to be able to do because I'm so nitpicky about like those details. But it's like I've made a promise with myself. Like I'm trying to essentially right now the way it's starting because I don't have enough content to do it. But like I'm trying to edit one thing a week. Like I'm trying to make one short like. The deal that I made,
short type of edit.
Well, so the contract I made with myself this year is like kind of like, as much as this person annoys me, but his college dropout album was the best, but 5 beats a day for 5 summers, Kanye, what I'm trying to practice is like, I'm trying to make one short little either a teaser or a long form thing. Like I've shared with you that what we're here to shoot this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make one every 2 weeks. And then once I get better at it, I want to try to make one a week. And then as long as I'm still recording, as long as I'm still recording, doing these interviews, doing these things, theoretically speaking, I should be getting faster and better and doing this. And then I want to get to the point where then when I'm able to hire someone to help, I can truly express like clearly, like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Cause I know how to explain it right now, but I'm also still kind of like figuring out what's in the sauce, you know?
Oh,
like,
dude, for sure.
Still figuring out
There's a lot of
the
sauce
mole.
to figure out in filmmaking, dude.
Oh, dude, it's mole.
Yeah.
Filmmaking is straight mole.
Yeah, dude. So I would say like I'm a pretty decent photographer. Like there's definitely a lot of people who are better than me for sure. But like I kind of like know my way around cameras and lens choices and lighting situations and like where I want to be to get the photo that I want. And I can usually do that pretty quickly and make some like things that I'm like pretty psyched about afterwards. I kind of like expected those like skills to carry into filmmaking and for it to be like a very natural transition. And dude, filmmaking, it's just, I'm not going to say photography is not complex, but like for me at least, filmmaking is like, it seems infinitely more complex in my brain.
When
like it's
motion,
so hard.
When you add motion, movement into anything, it changes it up. Because I think photography, the thing with like, that's like the thing with like YouTube filming is so like and I want to be clear, YouTube filming is not hard, but it definitely ain't easy.
Yeah.
Because but 9 times out of 10, you're not moving and you're just static. But like the biggest thing that I've been like trying to understand recently, because, and this is something that like, I don't know if I've said it on another podcast, but like I eventually want to shoot like a feature length film, like a movie. Yeah,
dude.
But I want to make a fictional movie. I don't want it to be something like just a documentary. I actually want to do that. And one of the things that like in this thing, I've been like wanting to understand, because there's a scene in my head, like I need to learn how to shape light,
dude.
But I need to learn how to shape light as a character moves through a scene, and the light is going to continuously shape on them. And it's like,
each like step they take has to be like,
it's different,
intentionally done.
And it's like understanding like the magnitude of this situation is like it's challenging. And I know like when you get to that level, there are people that do that for you and you know that, but you still have to understand at least how to explain it.
Dude, if you want to be a good DP, like, or director of photography, like the best thing that you can do to learn is like learn how to light scenes.
Yeah.
Like as you're like learning how to become a DP, like time behind the camera definitely matters, but like lighting a scene is the most important thing. And that is going to like separate you.
I mean, you and I have talked about this. Like one of the best advice someone ever gave me is like, Mario, don't buy a camera, buy lighting equipment and buy audio equipment. Like just buy things to capture good audio and buy things to capture and make good light. So I have like a ton of modifiers. I have a ton of audio equipment and I know like 50 people who have a Sony S.
Yeah, dude.
Or I know like 5 people who have FXs are nice cameras. Like everyone I know has a nice camera.
Yeah.
But the lighting equipment I think is like making sure you have a clean setup. I think it's definitely been
clean and like knowing how to use all the tools at hand. Yeah.
I mean, and you don't
you're always going to be able to learn more because like lighting is like an extraordinarily complex thing just in and of itself.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
it's funny. I think lighting is actually extremely simple as a concept. Like shaping it, casting shadows, doing all that. Lighting is a complex. Lighting gets complicated when lighting gets complicated when you're not controlling it all the time, especially when you're like shooting in the daytime.
Oh, that's
shooting
definitely
like
true too. Yeah.
That's where like, cause like lighting to me, like when you sit down and you finally get it done and you like got all your things, it's not that hard when it's stationary.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
But like the moment you want to like not just light someone for a YouTube video or for a portrait, and you want that portrait to be artistic or you want it to be fashion forward.
Yeah.
That's where it gets super complicated. Like, but like a standard 2-piece lighting setup, I don't think is that hard to like, to be able to make someone not look flat.
Yeah.
But if you want someone to pop, that's a whole nother animal.
Yeah. And if you want to create a mood in a scene.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot.
Definitely. I would like all my stuff was super moody in the beginning. And I was always like, it just looks cool. And everyone's like, you look ominous.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, man, I think Mario's like, a bit emo or something. Yeah.
Oh dude, I'm sure. I'm so sure that was like That was definitely my early stuff.
Yeah.
That was definitely my early
He's got
stuff.
some deep angst. I think that he's like working out through this like film project right now.
That boulder is getting to him. He's just showing up in his work.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
So man, I have a question, and I definitely, we have, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. So, what is the next big project for you? Like, what are you aiming for? Or you kind of like at a moment of rest and recharge, or like, where are we at?
Dude. Oh, I'm not at a moment of rest and recharge. I would love to be. Like, I kind of long for that right now. I'm kind of in like a season of like a lot of like in my family, like my wife is very much in this season. Like we're in this together kind of like relearning a lot of things. So unlearning some things that like we've kind of been like, I don't know, ingrained in our whole lives, and shifting around to, I don't know, hopefully live more, I guess, joyfully and more in community. And coming to a place where I'm trying to like, these are vague AF statements.
I mean, if you're in a process of growth, you're trying to learn at the same time. It's like, it's like not knowing how to swim and someone throws you into the water, and it's like, they're giving you mild instructions. Like you're kind of in it. To me, it sounds like you're just in it.
Yeah. We're definitely in it right now, man. Yeah. So like, we're like, as a family, definitely focused on like the day to day a little bit right now. That's good. Like, and like, okay, like what do we need to do this day for us to like, there's been some kind of like family traumas that have happened this year. So like, what can we do to like, be present, like a healing presence with one another, like each day? Like that's like a big theme in my marriage right now. Like,
dope.
And like, yeah, like, yeah. Oh, dude, honestly, like my biggest like priority in this season is like loving my wife and being like loved by her well. I think that's the thing. And then like loving our son as good as we can too.
Dude,
like,
that moves mountains.
Yeah. So that's like a huge thing right now, man. Like, yeah, there's a lot of like obstacles in like the last year, like, and some kind of systems that we were a part of, my wife and I, like in religious spaces and intellectually too, that I don't think were helpful.
Yep.
Or maybe I don't want to say they were all unhelpful. Like the world is just more complex than like just saying, oh, this was unhelpful. But there's a lot of like themes that we really needed to unlearn. And unlearning those things were and are like kind of painful. But also joyful, and like replacing them with something better. Yeah. So yeah, that's vague. I'm always happy to talk about it more in detail if anybody ever asks me. But like, yeah, so like a deconstructing phase, but also like replacing what's been taken down with beautiful and joyful things together, I think.
You only build great things by breaking things that you thought were once great. So
yeah, dude.
It.
Yeah.
And that's how building, science, glass, art, everything is made. Like, that's why like in pottery, they have you destroy your work.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, you have to like be willing to just smash it and break it. And you have to be able to smash and break something you actually care about. It can't just be something like, I made this bowl.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's, yeah, man, art is definitely that way.
And there's a lot of like discomfort, I think, around like shifting views of the world too. Cause like once you are like, I mean, I think we're all after like kind of like creating a like perception of the world that makes sense. And I don't think the world makes sense, like in a lot of ways.
It's not supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, yeah, there's a lot of like security lost maybe like as a person, and being like, oh, the world isn't as predictable and as like chill as I thought it once was.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to go into this next scenario like exactly, and like bring like life and I don't know, joy always into this next scenario, you know, like so we're kind of like wrestling with some of those questions maybe.
I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think life is supposed to be full with joy all the time.
No, it's not, dude. And I think that's like one of the hard things is like learning how to be present in painful circumstances and not just try to get through them as fast, but like letting pain and discomfort like work.
That's like a portion of climbing where like the only time you learn how to like deal with pain and discomfort is like climbing at the creek or climbing at Vitavu.
Or climbing on the moon board.
I mean, you can kind of just let go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, I guess.
I think if you're just pulling on hold is one thing. But once you're in a crack,
yeah, dude,
you're kind of in it. Like, it's not like, oh, let me just come out of it. Cause I can't tell you how many times, like the few times that I've climbed at the creek, it came very apparent to me that like, if I get out of this crack, it's going to be worse trying to get back into it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to just like huff through this thing. I think it was like, I don't remember if it was like I think it was the incredible hand crack. Mm-hmm. And I like on-sided it. I was very proud. But I was like, I think it was the incredible hand crack and then something to the right and something to the left that I on-sided all three a couple of years ago. But like, I remember because I think the incredible hand crack has like a small little roof in it, does it? And then and it goes up. I remember pulling that roof and I remember cutting my feet.
Oh, whoa.
And then I was just like, and this is like the boulderer and me coming out, you know, like sport climbing and boulder. I remember cutting my feet and then kicking my feet back up and twisting it in and bumping up my hand jam and then bumping up. And then I remember I was about to cut and do it again. And I was like, and it just dawned on me. I was like, if I come out of this thing, it's going to be 1 billion times harder to do that. And my instinct is to come out and just pull, but I don't have any feet. I have nothing because I'm not on the ground. So I can't act like I'm on the ground. I can't act like I'm climbing sport climbs. I can't act like I'm doing this other thing because I'm not doing that thing anymore because I've moved past that. And so, because now I'm doing this other discipline and this other sport that is a part of life and a part of this journey, which I think is very important to acknowledge.
Yeah, definitely.
But I am no longer doing what I once was. And it's like, dude. And it's hard to stop yourself in the moment, especially on a route, and even more especially in life when you both have been doing something and going through life in these systems and these groups and these communities for so long, and all of a sudden now you're kind of like, this is not the way.
Yeah, this wasn't working.
Yeah, this is not the way. Yeah. Like, this is no longer the way of the Mandalorian. Like, we got to move on.
Dude. Yeah, we got to take that helmet off, man.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard pill to swallow. And also, I say kudos on you guys because I think most people, and I'm not saying this didn't happen to you, but I think most people, when they recognize that, they go into a panic and they just try to hold on to what they already know and they try to make what they already know work. And I think if you have the wherewithal to be like, okay, this, as much as this frustrates me, breaks my heart, makes me confused, makes me feel lost, makes me feel dazed and confused. I need to take a breather.
Yeah, dude.
I don't have to get off route. I don't have to take.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything. I just need to be patient.
Yeah.
And just like take a moment.
Breathe.
Breathe. Assess it out. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm going to put one hand in front of the other like I've been doing, but I'm going to make slight little changes. Slight little changes.
Yeah.
Boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, bop. And then next thing you know, that's what it is. You're done. Yeah. Well, you're not done, but you're off of that route and you're on to the next thing of where you need to be.
Yeah. You're clipping the chains.
That's what we're trying to do, man. We're trying to clip the chains of life, brother.
Clipping the chains of life, bro.
If people want to support you, people want to give you job opportunities, how do people get in touch with you? How do people reach out to you? How can they find you?
You can hit me up on Instagram at Daniel_Pellain, Poulain, or email me at daniel@danielpellain.com. And man, yeah, I'm always psyched to create with people. That's like what I love doing.
That's what we're here doing this weekend.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah. That's how we get to bond, man.
Hell yeah.
Heck yeah, dude.
Well, dude, thank you so much for being a guest on Sends and Suffers podcast. It's honestly been beautiful hearing about the sending and suffering and the skills that you have learned to become the person you are. And I'm very excited for you and your family to elevate to the next level of what you guys are going to do.
Thanks,
I'm very
man.
excited for you guys.
Dude, thanks for having me on and just being curious about my life and like,
dude, you're a rad dude.
Loved and valued, man. I appreciate that.
Dude, my whole goal is to talk to rad people, and you're a rad dude.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
I hope you enjoyed this episode with Daniel and I. It was wonderful to relive this moment. It was a while ago, but God, was it good. If you haven't already, please support the Malawi trip that I've got coming up. We're going to Malawi, Africa. Jen and Eve Walker and myself. We're going there to do mentorship, to do a bunch of things. And if you want more information, reach out to me or click on the links in my bio and all my social media feed. I think all of you are wonderful. I think you're lovely. And remember, if you're not suffering, you got to ask yourself, is the send even worth it at all? Because I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. All right, I'm rambling. I'm out of here.
Yo.